Hey, yo, with the Def fam, we are back, and we've got our copies of Fafner today. Not the Fafner we were expecting for the Fallen banner, but Fafner nonetheless. He's always had really great artwork. I've always been a big fan of Fafner. Just the black and the gold really looks well on this guy, and he's cool. I've always liked Fafner. He's one of my favorite final bosses that we've had in Fae. His artwork, all of his artwork is very good, of course, with the, baby face on the top of his... What do they call these things again? The Ghoulin Bursty, the mech that he's got. Pretty cool. And then, of course, over here, he's got the giant sword. I'm still waiting on them to introduce smash weapons from Engage into Fae somehow. Like, maybe after combat, you inflict smite on the enemy or something like that. I don't know. It wouldn't be too hard for them to implement smash weapons, I don't think. And then finally, we got the injured artwork there. So Fafner, he's a pretty good unit, even though, yeah, we would have rather gotten the Armored Dragon Fallen Fafner. This one is still okay, too, and it's actually been a long time since we've gotten, a really good melee cav-type unit. So here are his stats. We've got 40 HP, 48 attack, 47 speed, 37 defense, and 18 res. He does have a super boon on attack, which is pretty good. And his speed is really good, too. He's got a really solid attack and speed combination there, and a good enough amount of defense that he can hold his own in melee round of combat. So there we go for his stats. And then his weapon, he does have a preference weapon, which is typical of these Fallen Hero, Grand Hero battle units. So that's not that big of a surprise, but it is a pretty solid weapon. Gives him a flat attack of 3, and then Canto Distant +2 with a max of 5 for the first 4 turns. So Canto Distant 5 that's a lot of Canto, right? Like that, he's going to be able to put that to very good use with a couple of the builds we're going to be showing off here. Okay, then also for foes in 3 rows or 3 columns centered on him, then he's inflicting attack, speed, and defense -5, guard, and guaranteed follow-up on those foes in combat. So this is basically a Crux style of debuff, which they've been doing this a lot lately, and it's actually really good. In some ways, it's better than the start of turn debuffs, like target the nearest enemy on the map, do attack and defense -7 and sabotage on them, and then chain to enemies in 2 spaces. The reason why this can be better is because those types of penalties can be cleansed. Like if they have King Freyr, or if they just end their action and then go ahead and dance on the ally, you would just neutralize all the debuffs right there. But a Crux style of debuff like this, it's not going away. Like, as long as he's on the map and he's doing this, they can't really get around it until they get rid of Fafner. So, in some ways, these are actually better ways to debuff the enemies. So, I like that they're doing this a lot more common now. Okay, then also at the start of combat, if his HP is over 25%, he's getting a bonus to all of his stats, equal to the number of foes in 3 rows or 3 columns centered on him times 3, with a max of 9. Then he deals 15% bonus damage based on his attack, excluding on AoEs, which is kind of an RIP. He actually would have been a crazy AoE unit if they would have allowed him to get that on the AoE. And then he also grants special cooldown count -X to himself before his first attack during combat, with a maximum of 3 depending on the amount of movement that he uses for the turn, which is pretty good. Also, though, once again, this doesn't seem like it's going to work on AoEs because it's not for pre-combat specials. So, this guy would have been a sick AoE unit if they allowed him to do all the things I just mentioned. But it's fine. I mean, he's still a very good unit. So, here, his passive skills now, we have Dragon Fang. We got Lull, Speed and Defense 3, and then Rouse, Attack and Speed 3. We'll take the Lull skill, I guess. We are a little past the point of using Lull skills, but, I mean, it is nice fodder, I guess, for a free-to-play unit. Okay, so here is how he's going to stack up in terms of scoring. He's not even a ranged unit, and he score ties with Cyril. That's insulting, man. They really must have loved Cyril. I don't know who the Cyril dev is, but they future-proofed the hell out of this guy, didn't they? And he still stands to score even higher when we get the close counter seal. So, yeah, pretty ridiculous that Cyril is still the gatekeeper for arena scoring. Panette and Marnie are just like in another stratosphere compared to poor old Fafner, though, unfortunately. He score ties with Xander, so that's the stand-in. They haven't updated the score calculator yet to include the new Fafner, so that's why we got to use Xander here. And the closest unit to compare him to stat-wise is the Trick or Treat yarn that we got for Halloween. They're both melee calves. This guy more so wants to be like a Galeforcer. Fafner can actually be a very good Galeforcer as well, as we're going to see in some of the builds. But yeah, they are very different though, because this guy is a beast-type unit, so he's going to have access to very different skills than Fafner does. So I guess pick whichever one you like best, but Fafner, I would say, is overall better. His skills are going to be more geared toward dealing a lot of damage to the foe, so he should work out a little bit better. And besides Yarn, we don't really have another melee cav to work with, so at the very least, Fafner is filling a niche role that we haven't really had occupied for quite some time, so that is good there. And then we'll go ahead and take a look at the builds now. So this is the first build. This should be the most obvious one, and basically, Emblem Erica is his best friend because we're stealing her entire kit, including her Emblem Ring. So we're going to get Brave attacking with the Emblem Ring on the first round of combat per turn. Blue Skies gives us a tremendous amount of true damage as well as some true DR on the enemy's first attack and Brave attack. Assault Force is giving us speed-based damage in this instance, 20% of that. It checks either your highest stat between speed or defense, and for Fafner, it's easily going to be speed. It also neutralizes any penalties that he's got, which is pretty solid. And then we're going to be able to do all that bonus damage to the foe, and then attack and speed, insight, hone just gives him some support capabilities there. He's giving attack and speed to allies in 2 spaces by +6, and then he also gives them the incited status effect, which is a pretty good one. So yeah, overall, this is basically I would say this is probably the, like, cookie cutter build you would want to give to this guy. There are alternate options, though. So instead of Blue Skies, you could go for Excel, Attack and Speed Excel. That one gives you a little bit more DR, so if you want him to last a little bit longer in combat, that could be a better option. And you could also give him Flow Guard as well. That would combo nicely with him getting Excel, because it would raise his survivability by quite a bit. So Flow Guard is going to give you Null Follow-Up. It gives you guard on the enemy's attacks, and then it also inflicts Scowl on them before their first attack. So it gives him a much higher chance of surviving to get the full quad off with the Erica Ring, if that's what you're going for. So that would definitely be the option. You may not even want the Erica Ring, though, if you're going to do that. Or, not the Erica Ring. You may not even want Haze Slice if you're going to do that, though. You may want to go for No Quarter if you're going to run, like, Excel and then Flow Guard. Because Assault Force cuts DR in half. Haze Slice doesn't cut DR, so maybe go for No Guard to neutralize the enemy's DR in full if you're going to run Flow Guard. And you could also give him Attack Wave Hone, I guess, or Attack Wave N, which gives him similar support capabilities, but it's going to give him more in-combat attack if he's attacking on an even-numbered turn. So, just some possible options. Lull Echo is the Echo skill of choice. Don't even consider any other Echo skill on him. None of them are really that viable besides this one. Like, Distant Counter Echo, yeah, right, his res doesn't exist. Deathblow Echo, I mean, it's just worse than Lull Echo. Guard Echo, I mean, no. Let's just make it simple, no. Lull Echo, yeah, obviously. And then Mercy Wing Echo, I guess if you were running him on a Galeforce type of build, then maybe. But yeah, so there you go for the cookie cutter build. Okay, next up we have the Galeforcing build. I do still like Flared Sparrow a little bit more on these Galeforce units. Just having that terrain advantage is really good. And then it also locks out enemy range units from being able to move as easily. So if you're running this in Aether Raid's offense, Flared Sparrow has a lot of good applications in there. So I would say this would be the preferred ace skill for that. And then once again, Assault Force, because it's just his best option for the B skill. Shadow Smite can also be a really good Aether Raid's tool. If you're using him to reposition first, he can reposition an ally and then smite them up right afterwards. So you got a very good chance of beating any traps that may be in the way, which is obviously very helpful. And that's pretty much all there needs to be said about this. You could also try Mercy Wing Echo, I guess, on this particular build, but that's all completely up to you. All right, and then finally, we do have an AoE build. Like I said earlier, I would have preferred if his weapon was more favorable to him running AoEs, but they're not. So In this case, we run Momentum 4. It's giving us the cooldown reduction prior to our AoE, if we are able to get -2 cooldown. So it's not too hard to get -2 cooldown now, just like from ally support. They're giving a lot of cooldown reduction support to allies. Like Legendary Deirdre got a whole bunch. There's also the Legacy Goto who gives a bunch. So yeah, just pick and choose your support allies correctly, and you shouldn't have too many trouble activating Blazing Wind here. And we go for Sigurd Ring instead of like Marth Ring or Erica Ring in this case, because the Sigurd Ring works really good with both momentum and also AoEs. It's the only ring that gives bonus damage on AoEs when we proc a special. And it also gives him +1 movement for Momentum 4 to do a little bit extra damage there. And then I decided, why not? Let's just go for an even attack wave end this time, just to get even more DPS out of this guy, and then life and death. So yeah, those are pretty much the 3 possible builds I could see for him. Once again, I would say this is the cookie cutter build. This is the one to go for if you just want to like build an all-around Fafner. But the other 2 can also be good if you're trying to like really focus in on one certain playstyle. So that's going to wrap us up for this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. And I'll catch y'all again on the flip side.